Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi. I have with me Major General Rajiv Narayanan to discuss, I think, one of the biggest subjects which is going to come our way. What is the big subject? Global North versus Global South. Geopolitics, as a study, comes down to this as a big picture. We keep talking about China, India, US, Russia, Ukraine, Europe, and a whole lot of things. But at the larger game, it's a war between the global North and the global South. Not a war, but a struggle. Sir, thank you so much. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adi. Always a pleasure. And it's a very interesting topic because, like in the last sessions, we have been speaking of the evolving global order, where I had said that it will take 2, 3 decades. And this is coming out very sharply, where now the global south is showing eyes to the global north. 3 years is a hell of a lot for them to have suffered. And they're quite angry with the and especially you find that bulk of the global south has not supported the global north in their fight against Russia. They have not. And so it has been built up. So if you put up the slide, I will just show you what is this. Yeah. And essentially, a lot of people do talk in India and abroad based on India's heft today and its standing. That is India likely to be the third pole. I have told you earlier also I'm not too sanguine and comfortable with this pole business, but I'll give an alternative to this. Just to show the north south divide.
Hmm.
Red is north, green is south. In the green portion in Latin America, you just see north around Brazil, there is a red spot.
Hmm.
That is French Guinea. It's part of France, so that's why it's shown as red. In the 1980s, an economist had made a line. Nothing much has changed. You've seen this, you see this line. It's called Brandt line.
Yeah.
It's almost 4 decades. Nothing has changed. But very interesting 2 points in this map I'll show you. China, which are very keen to be considered as global north and talks of great power relations, is still vectored in global south. The previous slide just have a look. It's vectored in global south.
Hmm.
The only thing which has changed from here is that here, excluding Tajikistan, the complete Central Asia was shown as part of global north, but here all are global south.
Hmm.
Okay. So which is this global south area? So I've just made a table. It's essentially Asia, Africa, Oceania, Latin America, and the Caribbean. This is your global south. And ओहो एक मिनट ये क्या हो गया पूरा नहीं आ रहा
Now, Ani Rasa, I think it's not fitting in the screen.
या आई जस्ट इसका is there a way to amend this anyway?
No problem, sir. Why don't you continue? Let me see what I can.
Asia is population is basically we have to realize that the global population is 8 billion and the global GDP World Bank and all are talking today is 100 trillion
Hmm.
dollars. These are the two entities that I'm looking at. Asia by population out of 8 billion is 4.7 billion. That is the population of Asia. GDP is 39 and the trillion dollars. It has 49 plus 1, which is Taiwan. 49 plus 1 I am putting is because Taiwan is there. It's an observer in the UN. It is not recognized as a country by the UN, thanks to PRC. Africa is 1.4 billion is the population. GDP is 3 trillion. Now this 39 trillion also is pushed up by the uh, five three countries, that is Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan to some extent. Japan is about 4, close to 5. South Korea is about 1.8, and Taiwan is about zero point 0.8.
Hmm.
So when you combine that, about 7 कम हो जाता है इसमें से. We'll work take it out later. Africa has 54 countries, and unfortunately they are the most backward continent. Oceania is 0.04 is their population. You can imagine all these islands, Australia, New Zealand, and all that. Melanesia, Micronesia, Polynesia, all these islands, and this. GDP is 1.6 primarily because of Australia and New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Australia is about 1.55 and New Zealand is about zero point 0.4 something, zero point 0.5 something. So it lifts up. 1.55 out of 1.6 itself is Australia. So you can imagine क्या है. Total countries are 14. Latin America and the Caribbean. So no, South America is 0.48, Central America is 0.0, sorry, that is Latin America, and South America and Central America is Latin America. That is 0.48, Caribbean is 0.04, is 0.52, their GDP is about 4.07, total Latin America and Caribbean is about 32 countries. So when you total up the number of countries, it comes to 150, out of which remove 5 which are the developed countries. That is Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, New Zealand, and Australia. So you're left with 145 countries is what generally is looked at as the global south. The population of global south is about 83 odd percent.
Hmm.
But the GDP, when I take out the developed countries, is just about 38%. That is more than 80% of the population is living on just about 38% of the world's GDP. That is why it is South. When we talk about India, we have a population of 1.4 billion, but out of this entire GDP of 100 trillion, you are at the moment at 3.18, close to 3.2. So when you start talking of yourself as another pole, be careful.
Hmm.
You're nowhere near the others. So we should avoid talking of ourselves as a pole at the moment. In my earlier talks also I had mentioned that we should learn from the Chinese and bide our time. Jaldi nahi hai. You have the heft, people have recognized you. Work step by step. I'll give some points that I have. Now, I've been trying to search the details of, basically the SDG gives out excellent goals for development. The 17 SDG goals which are there, it gives you a sustainable development goal for all. Once it was made in 2015, Asian Bank, ADB, had done a detailed study to come out what is the kind of funding that is required. I have tried searching the African continent, their bank, they have 5 regions. I've just tried searching. There is no place where they have compiled what is the money. Now, if you don't compile it, how are you going to even proceed with your development? There's nothing available for Latin America. There's nothing available for the Oceania. But if you take, their economies will not be very different from the South economies of Asia. This report was released on 23rd February 2017 and it had said 26 trillion are required by 2030. So if we take away the developed countries, you have 47, which works out from 2017 to 30, it works out to 1.7 trillion per year has to be spent by these 47 countries.
Hmm.
Big ticket, 14.7 trillion is essentially needed for power. पावर ही नहीं है. 8.4 trillion is required for transport, which includes infrastructure. सड़कें नहीं है, रेल नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, ports नहीं है. 2.3 trillion is just to lay out the telecommunication grid.
Networks.
800 billion for water, sanitation, everything adjusted for climate change. Clean drinking water. Now the biggest problem today, as it stands, as it is, nothing much has progressed. We have already reached 2022 and you have left with just 8 years. US is in strategic and economic retrenchment today. पैसे उतने ज़्यादा है नहीं. EU itself has gone into a political and economic flux thanks to the Ukraine war. China itself is in a political, economic and strategic turmoil. Internal तो इतना हो गया उसके पास. So, but because of this, and suddenly that the global South has found a voice with India, because of India, because India is also part of global South, this is the opportunity for not India, but the global South to be the third pole.
Makes a lot of sense when you actually listen
Because when you
to.
combine the global South,
There's a
it is
huge
working
voice.
out. Even let us say कम आते हैं आपके साथ, जितने आ जाते हैं, you'll have almost about close to 30% of the world's GDP with you. So when you stand together and India stands with them, 30% of GDP makes a lot of geoeconomic heft, not 3%. So for that, whoever has thought this of India to be the global voice of South Asia, global South, hats off.
Hats off, sir.
It's a solid point that has been made that India then becomes the bridge. It is part of the global South and becomes the bridge to whoever are the poles now. So, like I've just brought this out. Only issue is the second last point is, will all accept India to be the face? Doesn't matter. 120 countries had joined and participated out of 145 odd. 120 had participated, which itself is telling, and quite a lot of heads of state have participated in this, which happened on Jan. So just this thing, inaugural session was development centric. Concluding session was unity of voice, unity of purpose. There were 10 sessions apart, which was done, 4 on 12th and this thing. And there were 8 ministerial sessions. Finance minister had 1, 2, 3 sessions on his own. And the themes which were taking place was there. And the last one was very telling on G20. What are their suggestions that what all things should India push for in the G20 presidency? This
Inclusive.
Totally inclusive, asking ki bhai, what all do you need? Let us discuss. And then anything else that you want, because these were laid out by India, these sessions. What else do you want to be able to be with you? So what are the threats? Just always remember, last time India took leadership of NAM, China responded with 62 war. It's not that that was the only reason, that was one of the reasons. Today the situation is very different. China yearns to be included in global north, but is not there. Now it will feel a loss of face if it goes into that I will take global leadership of global south as part of global south. That's a terrible lot of face. And then look at the fall from G2, which almost got fructified between Obama and Xi Jinping to say that now you're part of global south. The other factor is that he has coerced and squeezed so much of the global south in his BRI, has failed to respond during COVID, and now the problems they face in a Ukraine dilemma. And further, thanks to COVID and Ukraine and everything and his own zero COVID policy, he's caught in an internal bind. And at the same time, India's response, to the best of what it was capable of doing, it doesn't have deep pockets, but what it did, that has earned it the trust of global south.
Impactful. Hmm.
Yeah. So the threats to China, to India, would come from China overtly, वो तो है, but global north would also not be very happy. While we may say that they are old, they like to, China is always bilateral, and when you do bilateral, it doesn't work. But with the global south, the West also does bilateral.
Hmm.
And when they make a minilateral, the major portion in the minilateral is taken by the developed countries. So in that minilateral, the one or two smaller countries, they hardly have a voice. So
That
what
seems
will
to
be
be
the challenge? Pardon?
that seems to be quite purposeful, sir.
All do it, yeah. Sab karte hain.
True.
See, everybody understands united you stand, divided you fall.
Hmm.
It is only here suddenly they are finding that India is wanting to take everybody together, that there will be more stability. If just one grows, other doesn't grow, you will never have stability. You will constantly fight to do down the other. But if you have, like in one of our talks, I had mentioned about negative and positive covariance of rewards.
Yes.
In conflict negotiations and all, you talk of that. So if there is a positive perception of positive covariance of rewards everywhere and the negative covariance is very minimal, certain degree of negative covariance will always be there for somebody else, you have a certain degree of stability. Now the challenges are bridging north and south. There are divergent geoeconomic, geopolitical, and geostrategic needs, because what their interests may be in South Pacific and Oceania, or in Latin America and the Caribbean, and in within Asia itself, South Asia, Southeast Asia, you go to Africa, North Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, each place, firstly, the requirement of the people themselves will be very different. Like I said, ADB had made a detailed report of what is needed,
Hmm.
how much of money would be needed. अफ्रीका ने तो बाकी regions ने तो कुछ है ही नहीं. At least Asia has an ADB. ओशनिया के पास क्या है? कुछ नहीं है. There is no bank which covers that.
Especially Africa, sir.
अफ्रीका के पास क्या है? There is no bank which covers that. So now, when you're balancing, the divergent needs are not just between north and south, it is
Hmm.
also within south. Concurrently, you are also developing. So you have to balance your own comprehensive national power needs with that, what you're planning to give or do for the global south. And look at the VUCA world that you're going in through today. How it will going to impact what you need to do. So that is why I made this point, which I keep saying, that you avoid being the sole third pole. India, along with the rest of global south, is the third pole. It will be strong and work with them to achieve the SDG goals.
Hmm.
Have and though it is the BRICS ka bank hai, Can it do something to at least start the survey work for Africa and Latin America and other countries? I don't know what the Asia Infrastructure and Investment Bank could do. That could also step in. These are alternates along with World Bank and Asian Development Bank,
Indeed, yes, sir.
so that the other regions can also be done. Asian Development Bank, whatever it can do, these you have three banks now available with you, right? Successful outcome I put comes in bracket because you got to take it in a phased, adaptive manner, step by step approach. You can't bite more than you can chew. As you attain success, it will increase your own geopolitical and geostrategic heft and geoeconomic influence. You will start becoming more and more strong. More and more countries will trust you. Yes, there is a delivery, because if they see that they're not getting into a debt trap, that there is openness and transparency in what you're being doing, and that their own development needs are being met and their own standards are being lifted, more and more will join up with you. And that is how the new global order would evolve. But would it be desirable for extant powers? Because it crushes China's dream,
Yeah,
right? And whatever is the global dominance over South, that's why I gave that brand line map, that that has hardly shifted. It's over 4 decades, except that Central Asian countries have been placed under global South.
correct.
I don't know for what reason Russia is still shown as global North, except for west of Urals. The conditions on which the World Bank and UN identify these as global North or global South, it needs to be considered. So you will get your reactions from not only China, but also with the global North. And when I say China, Pakistan, it's tail, so it will come with it comes wherever China we say, Pakistan is the tail, so it is there. So you have to ensure strong internal stability and ability to have a punitive external deterrence. It's not credible, punitive. That if you do it, I'll thrash you so badly you will never try to do it again. That is the kind of punitive deterrence that you need to have,
Of course.
possess,
Mm.
right? Yeah. So capability and modernization, enough of threat based development of capability. Now it has to be capability based modernization. You decide what kind of capability you want and modernize with that, so that the cat is among the pigeons across the border, both sides. So has always been my punchline. You need a sudrid, that is a strong, saksham, you should be capable, samrid, economic growth, sanrakshak, you become a net security provider, initially in the region and then to the global south, till where you can reach. That is the Bharat I'm looking at. Without sudhridta and sakshamta, you cannot be samrid.
Mm.
If you look only at samriddhi, I'm sorry. You need a secure environment. For that, you have to be sudhrid. You need sakshamta, because technology keeps evolving. Your skill development and your education and the capability that you're looking at has to get into that. Industry itself, they say they're going into currently they're at industrial 4.0. For all
Yeah,
you know, you might go into 5, industry 5. So you got to keep evolving yourself. You can't keep following the old practices. Give you a simple example: construction. World has evolved here. Industrial 3.0, nobody makes concrete at the site. They make concrete at a separate place. Site is developed. And you just come and place the concrete slabs there with quick drying cement and push off. India is the one place where two things happen. A, most
Both.
of your drains are open. And if you look at your archaeological ruins, open drains used to be there 2000, 5000 years ago. We have still not evolved to how to get covered drains, how to slope the road so that the water and all the refuse goes into that. You've still not evolved into that. Second, when you see the construction of your house, or city in city when they make storm drains, the complete concreting and everything is done in sight.
Yeah.
It's so slow. While the digging work is going on, if your plans and if your blueprints are ready, while this is going on, you can make your concrete slabs elsewhere. It's ready. The moment the place has been ready, whichever, see, there's a sequence to where you make it, the bottom, the sides, the top, सारा कुछ हो जाएगा बना बनाया. You cut down on so much time, and it's a neater and a better way of doing it. You haven't even evolved to that capability. So sakshamta has to be there in every field. You have to evolve. You have to keep doing not just an operations research. Operations research is how I can do the current thing well. It is also a systems analysis, that am I doing this correctly, or is there a separate way to do it better?
Correct.
और सा जो बोलते हैं ऑपरेशंस रिसर्च एंड सिस्टम्स. ऑपरेशंस रिसर्च इज एग्जिस्टिंग सिस्टम के प्रोसेस को कैसे इंप्रूव करूं. सिस्टम्स एनालिसिस ही प्रोसेस ही नया लेके आऊंगा, अच्छा हो जाएगा, जल्दी हो जाएगा. वो करना है. उसको करोगे, योर कंप्लीट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, द वे यू वर्क, द वे यू फंक्शन, तो समृद्धि आएगी. आपको कैसे नहीं आएगी? बिकॉज देयर विल बी नो वेस्टफुल एक्सपेंडिचर. The first to assist in a long way for your economic development. And it's only when you have these three with you, Sudrid, Saksham, and Samriddhi, that can you be a Sanrakshak, a security provider, the guard of the area. And then you become a strong pole with the South. Because the South now depends more and more on you for development, because you have these things with you. Okay. So that should be the vision for India. And then take it forward how to go about doing it. So I have finished with my slides.
Sir,
So
now, I mean, you posed some very interesting questions, and
yeah, shoot. Whatever you want to ask.
the main important thing that I want to bring about is the factor that, sir, you are you've alluded to this two three times during your presentation, is that the global north will not be happy with what you're doing.
ये देख ले BBC में क्या निकला है.
So
Do I
we'll
have to
discuss
allude
this.
more?
We,
Information warfare is the first start.
yeah, absolutely. And it
So the
started,
BBC
BBC
ने two
was,
part निकाल दी.
हाँ, हाँ. My
Now
question is, sir,
उसी का BBC का जो निकला है फर्स्ट पार्ट का, there is a person of Indian descent who is a House of Lords का MP है.
oh, he's written a very strong
Interested in
letter.
them to find out if the Pakistanis have done it. If Pakistanis have done it, then who will be behind them? इतनी अकल तो उसको है नहीं कराने के लिए. That is, it has come from either the north, or either our north or north. Both are north.
So, see, the main issue that I see, and it's going to be energy. The first thing,
Yeah.
there were two, three people who tried to remove the dollar dominance in terms of energy, sir. One was Saddam Hussein, one was Muammar Gaddafi,
बिल्कुल
the third is Vladimir Putin,
बिल्कुल.
and the fourth now is Narendra Modi.
Narendra Modi is not directly taking it out completely.
But you're talking to Saudi and UAE for rupee exchange of for petroleum, sir.
Yeah, it's a rupee exchange which used to be there earlier also. You had
Sir,
it with Soviet Union. Your,
the point that
all the three, see the difference with other three was
yeah,
they were setting up a bourse. They were setting up a bourse for international trade in other than dollar. Okay, using the balance SDR, and essentially the crunch was why assessment is why all this is happening in Europe today and euro is crashing. The start point of all that was when Saddam Hussein wanted to set up a bourse with euros
yes.
as the currency.
So see, the that's what I mean. You literally
You are still all other places where you're buying your oil from. You're still buying it in dollars.
sir, आपने एक hint दे दिया है. Now I'm just going to elaborate it for the audience because then that's why my smile suddenly came up. Europe, as per se, the European Union, you know, was trying to get its own voice, right? Look what has happened to them. They've committed self-suicide. That's a separate story altogether, and we've discussed that multiple times. The requirement for India today, with regards to the global north, is a bit higher than what the European Union structure wanted or needed by the main US. So there's a difference. There will be a difference. And then the 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 point that I'm alluding to is, sir, is that energy is going to be the big factor. And with the drain happening in terms of the north, in terms of their own issues that they're doing, how will this structure change? Because we should not consider, and this is my humble submission to you for your opinion, sir. Do we consider the global north to be as powerful as they were before this fracas in Europe started? Or
No, they're
is
not.
there going
That
to be
is
a
why
new
I'm
reality?
saying. No, that is why I'm saying this is the ideal time. Don't stand alone. Alone, you still don't have the heft. If you come alone, both Europe and US can stand up against you
Yeah.
when they want to. It is today they don't have that kind because they are embroiled there. But that doesn't mean a decade down the line they can't do it. Okay. But if you align yourself and stand with the global south, then look at it. You are talking of a look at the kind of marketplace. You're talking of 83% of the world population. That's different that 66%, 63% is yours. But when you add it, yeah, but when you add it with the global south,
Yeah.
you are talking together as a marketplace of 83% of the world population. That is huge. And you have the backing of approximately 30 to 33%, depending on who all come. Otherwise, 39% of the global GDP is with you, more than a one third of the global GDP. Now, that is something which cannot be looked down upon. But challenge will be there will be attempts by the global north to break this. इसको तोड़ने के लिए they will try their level best to break this grouping. That is where you have to be careful. Like rupee से लेते हो, they have set up a whole lot of a huge refinery for themselves. They are working with India. So I am buying raw from them in rupees, but my sale of the dollar very craftily has been kept in sale of the fuel which goes. अभी भी जैसे रशियन क्रूड आता है, रिफाइंड फ्यूल जब जाता है, द ट्रेड इज ऑल इन डॉलर्स. You haven't broken that. रशिया से आता है, you pay in rupees. It's a rupee ruble trade, but from your refineries, which goes is dollars. I think it is going to be the same way from Saudi Arabia.
That's now my last this thing, sir.
The reason, I'll just give you the reason. You will talk with other OPEC countries also,
Yeah, of course.
because you are increasing your refinery capabilities. When the world wants them to lift up their output, refinery capabilities nahi hai na. Now, when India opens up and says, I will refine your crude and sell it, so those crude which will come in, he says, you give it to me in rupees. I will refine it. What I need to use inside, I will use it. What I sell to the other countries, now I will sell in dollars. So you are coming up as a prominent player, by the way, in this energy trade. One of the benefits and fallouts of Ukraine.
You're selling the highest amount of oil to the third highest amount of oil to US actually.
Yes.
So that is an interesting factor.
US is also happy.
उसको भी
ठीक है, तुम
डिस्काउंट मिल रहा है.
कैप्ड प्राइस में उनको दे रहे हो. He is happy. You are
You're
happy.
happy.
Your dollars are not going out, but you are earning foreign currency, and your people are not will not be affected by the rising price of fuel outside, because you are refining quite a lot of fuel yourself, which is both for outside use and yours.
My last little point, user. छोटा सा है, ज़्यादा बड़ा नहीं है.
Yeah.
The global south itself, sir, just like the global north today, is going to get fragmented. It is fragmented from the inside. There's a lot of, okay, even the north is going to get fragmented. It is getting fragmented. As a matter of fact, the Davos session was an eye opener. One has to actually analyze what exactly happened there. It's an eye opener with regards to the statements that have been given by economic war statements against the US by Germany. Having said that, the opportunity for India needs to be, what you're trying to allude at is, India needs to be opportunistic to kind of pick up on these little things and find its way through. And
that is how you balance. If you're not careful, how do you balance?
true,
How do you become
true.
the bridge? Like I had
Find the
mentioned
gap.
also, that each region, if you take Latin America, that is Latin America को भी तोड़ के तो आप देख लो. When you take South America, Central America, Caribbean, Oceania, North Africa, West Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, South Africa, Asia itself, South and Southeast Asia, Central Asia, West Asia, even ASEAN के जो ऊपर है, East Asia में countries, everyone's requirements, needs, their way they function is very different. Plus, clashing with that is the global north's perspective of these regions, where they consider their interests, especially in Africa. When you're going here into the Oceania, it is the Australians, New Zealand, British, Canadian, and the American interests which come in.
Yeah.
When you go into Latin America and the Caribbean, the American interests come in a big way. Chinese interests come in there. In all these, the Chinese interests are also weaved in. So you have to be very aware of what kind of opportunities are coming your way. So, like I said earlier also, I have full faith in the foreign minister EAM and the team that he leads. And it is a lot of fine tuning. Just imagine the thought which has come: G20 presidency, SCO presidency, and you get the global south together. And it must have been, warning bells would have already sounded. everywhere. 120 countries is not a joke है. आपके 195 देश हैं, उसमें से 120 आपका अटेंड कर रहे हैं यार. That is, it's a eye opener.
Oh, it's a big move, sir. There's no question, and it's a game well played. You know,
Yeah,
as usual.
it's a game well started.
Hmm,
खेला
absolutely.
तो अभी बाकी है.
खेलना तो बाकी है,
It's a
पिक्चर
game
तो
well
बाकी
started.
है.
So it's the opening gambit.
जी जी जी.
There will be the middle game and the end game that you got to play. And this is a long game. This is that Weichi game of gaining influence, not chess. It's a Weichi game. So the opening gambit itself is going to evolve now. You have made a move, the opening gambit, the others have to start. एक start तो उसने कर दिया, but it was too, I think, very crudely done. So एक start किया है, but it's
Media
crude.
warfare doesn't work anymore, sir. I mean, this is just my opinion. I may be wrong, but media warfare today, with the kind of aware populations are there, even the West today is seeing through the rubbish that they've been told about Ukraine.
That's why I said no, it has failed because, like earlier discussion also had said, your information warfare has to be in the gray area.
Yeah,
It cannot be black. Black doesn't last long because if the details don't match, it falls flat. It's already falling flat. Let us see.
absolutely. Let's get into some questions, sir. Thanks, guys, for joining in, and please do like this video. Likes are critical. Yeah, I keep saying this in every show, and I really appreciate all of you guys just touching that little thumbs up. It helps reaching a larger audience, and that is very critical at this moment, because these kind of talks need to be put out in the domain which are reality, not some fumble that everybody actually talks about in the media. So please do, if you've not subscribed, new to the channel, please subscribe. Keep the bell icon open so that you know when the shows are coming up. Also, if you can, please do contribute towards the Dev Talks efforts. Let's start, sir. Shankar, thank you so much for your contribution. What of the Russian economy and energy in the future?
At the near term, he is generally okay, but medium term, he will be in strife. If the war continues, he'll be in strife. In the near term, it is in his interest now that this year, latest beginning of next year, he has to do it. And the way both of them have opened up and laid their cards on the table, I see it as a demilitarized zone along these four republics and some peacekeeping forces being placed there on either side. That is what is going to be there. Europeans are not going to like it because they were openly saying when war started that this doesn't happen to civilized West and it is only the browns and blacks who do it. But now, well, it will be there and there will be some browns and blacks who will be there because
It'll be the
who will be the UN peacekeeping because it can't be from Europe. Both sides के trust नहीं है. It can't be from US. So कौन बचता है? Browns and blacks.
absolutely, sir. I think
Led
you
by
you
a brown, led by a brown and having troops from browns and blacks. So
yeah,
that is what is going to happen in Europe now.
absolutely.
May. That's my assessment.
Naveen, thank you so much for the contribution. General sir, brilliant PT as always. Question: currently, there's minimal South-South trade and collaboration. Do you think India can also help South-South alliances and helps become a desired forum for problem solving?
You're very right. There is hardly any trade. जेब में पैसा होगा तो ही तो ट्रेड करोगे यार. If you don't have, your buying from outside. So by becoming the face and putting all those points there and how to take it forward, this is what uh, they are trying to do to help each other to come up. Help each other to come up. So when you help each other, there is a lot of sharing which takes place, and that is how you will be able to go forward. As your economy improves, so you will become in a position to help them more. I think about 400 billion or something India is planning over the next 5 6 years
Yes.
to be able to support the global south.
Hmm.
400 billion. India is not borrowing from anybody
So it's
to help
larger
the.
than what EU did in their what? Some thing was there, na? Indo Pacific, this thing, and the
Yeah, yeah,
Americans
yeah.
had put out that
There's nothing.
BBBW, Bring Back Better World. They didn't put a
Bring back
cent.
a better world. So this is what the work is all about, to ki, bring the global south together. Global south has been disparate, and I feel that with this thing that has happened, vision of global south, you're asking them, giving them a vision, kaise karna, kya karna, all this will happen, and this is what will the global north and our person to the north will try to disrupt. So you have to be ready to face this challenge.
So, Anshuman, thank you so much for your contribution. This is an interesting question. So normally I don't take up religion on my, on my channel, but for the sense of geopolitics, I want to ask you, I'll read this out and actually ask you a small thing. Do you see a potential Hindu-Christian alliance developing due to our support of Armenia and Greece against Turkey and Azerbaijan? What I mean to say is the previous in 1914, the war was fought to a large extent on religion. Serbs, Slavs, this, that, Diego, and all that stuff. It was race, ethnicity, and religion. Even in 39, when the war started, it was largely amongst the religious and the non religious Soviets, the godless Soviets, as they were called. Will religion play a part in going forward? Of course, a lot of us in the viewers, a lot of people will say yes, the Islamization of the world is a big factor in terms of all this stuff, which is true. But will religion play a big part in terms of dividing
So
or creating alliances in terms of the global north and south?
it was a education for me also. If you look at the complete global north and south, can I ask you, can you give Adi a guess which is the largest religion followed in the world?
Hmm. Islam,
Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism,
Hindu.
26.7%. Number two is Islam.
Wow, I
Number
didn't know
three
that.
is Christianity. I said it was while I was doing my study and research for this talk, it hit me. These are UN figures. 26 point some percent is Hinduism, 23 something is Islam, and 20 something is Christianity. Now, do you realize why they get after you as a religion? Now, to get to the question, interesting question, India didn't go there as Hindu Christian. This happened because Turkey and Azerbaijan supported Pakistan and made statements against India on in OIC on Kashmir. So simple. दुखती रग पे हाथ रख दो. You immediately gave weapons to Armenia, and you supported Greece. Thank you.
But sir, आपने ये जो बोला है, I'm shocked. Honestly,
Yeah,
I
I
have.
was shocked. Yeah, I was shocked. That is the spread of our religion, which we don't understand.
I mean, that means the global impact of Hinduism is going to increase even further. Then,
My daughter had visited Bali a couple of years ago. It's all Hindus there, yeah.
no,
98% Hindus.
that okay, sir. See, the it's not. I'm not talking about religious aspect of it. It's also about the Indianness which is going forward.
Correct. So here what I'm saying is India didn't follow ke Hindu Christian together. No.
Hmm.
It was just that Turkey and Azerbaijan made statements against India and kept making it again in their press conferences post OIC, and after they had gone back to their countries also. So India said enough is enough, started arming Armenia, and started supporting Greece.
Greece.
France, which initially had come out in support of Turkey, is suddenly quiet.
Actually, they are saying if Turkey attacks, we will support Greece.
Now they have changed tack quietly. And now suddenly you find Turkey and Azerbaijan have become silent.
Hmm?
Yeah, that's how diplomacy works. Yeah, it
And
has
to me,
nothing to do with Hindu or Christian. It has nothing to do with Hindu or Christian.
to
This
me,
is
the whole
sheer realism in diplomacy.
yeah. To me, sir, there's also another angle to it where I see the 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 Islamic collation, if I may, of the Middle East kind of shifting base and saying, yeah, this thing is not going to get us anywhere. You know, nahi hoga ye.
Prime example is across our western border. Yeah. Religion has not been able to give it an identity and bind it as a country. Yeah. They are still in search of an identity.
Yeah, because the changes that you see in Saudi,
They're realizing no, it doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
You cannot have archaic, middle age, and medieval laws implemented today. Yeah. It can't work. It doesn't work. You can't blindly say उसने उस वक्त वो कहा था तो ऐसा ही होगा. And you don't even know actually कि क्या कहा था, because everything Sharia and everything is based on hadith. It is the commentary on Quran. So
Yeah,
it is based on that commentary on Quran. How can you? It is like saying Christianity should go back to the Old Testament days. Yeah. How can you live that way? You can't. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there's a change in terms of and it's a very interesting question. Anshuman, thanks so much because you brought out a very different aspect. See, normally when a discussion on religion happens, it goes into isne wo kar diya, usne wo kar diya. We're not doing that. What we want to talk about is the impact rather than the religiosity itself. So that's uh, thanks so much for that question. It's an
Yeah, even
interesting
if you
one.
look at Christianity, the number of people going to footfalls in the church has gone down here.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the Archbishop of Canterbury, you look at the Orthodox Russian, you look at Pope, they all keep talking, do. That's the problem. But yes, today Islam is this. 5, 10 years down the line, will it go beyond us? Because they have nothing called population control.
So the world corrects itself. That's all I'm going to say to that because there's a correction.
No, the
You know.
problem is that no population control.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Population control comes when you have educated women. That's the connection people have found.
You
Unless
see,
you educate your women, very difficult to get population control.
absolutely, but I look at it from another angle. Actually, the main perpetrator of the money, which was doing all this stuff, was Saudi. Now Saudi knows that boss, if I continue this, I'm going to lose friends, and I don't have a future. So they're going to cut off a lot of the funds. So I find that uh,
Religion hota hai, look, he's still holding Pakistan's hand to whatever extent.
sir वो कर रहा है, but did you listen to the Saudi? And I'm sorry, I'm being argumentative, but did you listen to the Saudi ambassador speaking in Davos, sir?
Yeah, I did, but see, MBS is trying to walk the talk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resistance from the
Oh, big.
clerics.
Absolutely, absolutely,
So one MBS won't make a difference now.
absolutely, sir.
That is the whole
But
problem.
one does see a small speck of light
Yeah,
somewhere.
there is. And I have always said in various other when we talk everything that these things others can't change. It has to come from inside.
Inside.
It has to come from within that religion. बाहर वाला कोई बदल नहीं सकता. Sorry, he is only going to strengthen them and bind them together. It has to come from within that religion. The evolution has to come from within those who follow. They have to do it.
So let's okay. Thank you so much, Naveen Saab. Jansa, how do you see this against other groupings? G77 plus China, African Union, etc. Also, with regards to global north, is it better for them to have India led global south versus a successful G77 plus China?
G77 from China तो गया कहाँ यार? Thanks for the question. But G77 plus China is flopped. Now China ही खत्म हो रहा है. And now that you have come, especially G77 plus China was coming out as a major block before COVID. Now post COVID, then comes the Ukraine war. After that, now you find that the global south, of which G77, all 77 are members, they trust you more. Now you have G77 plus China, and you have G121, or if you want 120 plus India.
Yeah.
India doesn't say 120 plus India. India still identifies itself with the global south. That's why it says it will be the voice of the global south. China subtly trying to indicate that it was not the global south. That's why it was G77 plus China.
हम बड़ा आदमी है साहब.
Yeah, it didn't say G78.
Yeah.
77 plus China. But unfortunately, like I showed you, all coalitions, whether you take World Bank, IMF, these are all Western-led institutions. China is still shown as part of global south, while Taiwan is shown as part of global north.
That might burn
अब वो
Xi
कितना
Jinping.
बोल दे आई एम द सेकंड बिगेस्ट इकोनॉमी, जो करना है बोल दे, दे हैव नॉट एक्सेप्टेड चाइना एज पार्ट ऑफ द ग्लोबल नॉर्थ. So my assessment is the G77 plus China was its way of trying to show that he is not a global south and that he can do something. Yes, if he had reacted in a different manner through these 3 years, maybe he would have been successful. He failed. It's not that, like I said last time, uh, it's not that I could and he can't. It is just that when I say I is India, that India could and China can't, it is just that India did and China didn't. And so that is where all this thing has evolved now to voice of global south and 120 countries coming. तो बचे 25-26 हैं, वो चाइना के साथ जाना चाहते हैं, जाओ यार. It's your will. But we have to be careful. Like I said, attempts will be made to break this grouping with us of the global south, of us being the voice, that how many countries start coming to you. Attempts will be made to break them.
Absolutely. Now, this is an interesting question. So it's a good twist. He says, how can an import-based military with more than 85%, okay, 85% is not correct, but anyways, dependence on imports help India becoming a third pole? It's a drag on both peace and conflict time diplomacy, as the diplomacy is hostage to the military imports.
I thought my whole pitch was that we should not be the third pole by ourselves, that we don't have that heft.
At the moment, yes, sir.
And I had said that India, along with the rest of the global south, should become the third pole together.
Yeah.
Not by them. By yourself, तुम खड़े होगे, तुम्हें खत्म कर देंगे यार. Don't do that, and don't carry on that narrative I say of being a third pole. No, you don't have. You are achieving something. You have achieved something. There is still miles to go. And that is the dependency. Foreign dependency has come down a lot. It's a balanced dependency on both sides. So that's how it is not that you were held hostage and that is why you supported them. No, it was realism in diplomacy. यूक्रेन वॉर का सब काफ़ी बात कर चुके हैं, who was responsible and why it happened and what it happened. So we were not hostage because of this. Okay, but you have a balanced import today. It's not 85%, it's much less. And that is why the push for buying Indian things, Indian made things. The latest DPP of 2020, which has been upgraded in 2021, the
One.
priority is given to design. P1 is equipment which is designed, produced, and made in India.
Yep.
Designed. It is P2 is made in India. Like if I'm buying Rafale and he opens up a Rafale factory in India for making it in India, that is P2. That is P2. So you're reducing your dependency. I think your dependency on imports on various things has reduced to almost 50%.
Yep.
And it will go down further. You're opening up your defense corridors, and that is the reason why जल्दबाजी मत करो. अपने आप को मत सोचो कि मैं फन्ने खा हो गया हूँ. नहीं हुए. अभी और रास्ता तय करना है.
बहुत है. 5
सही
trillion is the
पकड़े
max.
या सही पकड़े हो, बट व्हाट आई सेड उसको गलत पकड़ लिया आपने. दैट्स व्हाई आई सेड वी शुड नेवर बी द थर्ड पोल. नो. या.
Thank you so much, Naveen, for your contribution. Sir, like you said, game well started. Sir, if you can just pull the mic a little bit front, there's an echo coming across. थोड़ा सा आगे खींच लो. It's very close to your
अपने पास
speaker.
कर लो.
हाँ, it's
ओके.
perfect. Sir, like you said, game well started. For us to play it well, India's political stability is the key and hence the linchpin of the operation. By this logic, we are likely to see more attacks on this front. And I want to add a comment which has been written by John, who says BBC documentary on Modi was a good start to the Indians. Don't you think?
Yeah, that's what I said. No, challenge will come. You just did Jan 12th, 13th. You had your uh, vision of the global south, and today, आज क्या है, 20 तारीख है. It's just 1 week, and you had the first information warfare against you. Political internal stability. I will say not just political stability. Internal stability is very important. And that is why I had said you have to be very careful of internal stability, and you have to make yourself strong enough to have punitive deterrence across. That if you're trying to do, I'll be deterrence will be punitive. Okay. That is very important. We had done a challenge to rising India earlier. एक बार वो देख लो. उसमें भी मैंने वही कहा है कि yes,
Yes.
game is well started, but challenges will going to start now. एक के
Indeed.
बाद एक चैलेंज शुरू होंगे आपके. There'll be a lot of there are a lot of fifth columnists who are inside India, so
Yeah,
they will
yeah.
use them. They will use them.
And it's a one thing I want to kind of, and there are loads of questions, like there are loads of questions about Qatar and the BJP, this thing here, the BJP reaction. Of course, I don't want to get into the politics of it. There's a question about Qatar comparative to the BBC issue which is coming. I'm just going to put out these same similar type of questions and kind of round them up into one single thing, sir. Where sir mentioned the BBC documentary, but I've seen such hit jobs increasing with hurt the credibility of the media. Not India doesn't have any sway on local elections. What does it gain locally? There are loads of things which are coming on this BBC thing, sir. My question to you, and I'm just going to guys surmise what all of you have kind of put across, and there are loads many more questions about this. A lot of people have got hurt, fair enough. But there's an interesting comment to counter that also, that the US itself gets hammered by everybody else. So it doesn't really matter. It's how much you blow up these things. Would you agree with me, sir?
No, the problem is our political immaturity to try to use these incidents for their own political mileage. Okay.
Hmm.
Because unfortunately, this has been the political game which was being played for so many decades to do down the other person. It is a game वो ब्रिटिश अमेरिकन्स ने बनाया था, वो सीरियल गेम ऑफ थ्रोन्स. दिस इज द गेम ऑफ चेयर्स. For the politicians, unfortunately, it had become a game of chess, and that is why you find Nupur Sharma case and everything. Now you find that openly the prime minister has told the workers that don't talk out of turn. जितना पूछा जाए वही बोलो. वो अलग बात है. Nupur Sharma made a statement what was there in Hadith, but did she start that so and so in Hadith and so thing and so thing, and hence this is what is written there? You just made a statement, but you didn't connect it to that Hadith. And it is
Hmm.
very easy. The common man on the street is unpad gawar.
Yeah, yeah. Both sides.
90% of the people would not have, both sides would not have read the scriptures and anything, commentaries, nothing. So he gets carried away.
Yeah.
You, so and so has insulted, so and so has insulted. Okay. Qatar, you didn't back away यार. Qatar itself has backed away. आप कोई statement बोलता है उसके बारे में?
You switched off your gas imports from there, sir. और क्या चाहिए
Yeah.
वो बेचारा?
The moment you cut off your gas imports, खत्म हो गया वो. He depends only on gas import और है
You've
क्या
reduced
उसके
it,
पास?
sir. Already 40% reduce हो गया है.
So the message goes loud and like what we did with Malaysia. जब
Palm
ज्यादा
oil.
उसने बोला, you cut off the palm oil from them. Their economy survives on palm oil. Yeah.
He took a big jolt. They threw out their president after that. तू जा यार यहाँ से.
The president went out, and the new president who's pro India has come in now. These are the these are the challenges. Like I made my statement also. What you have done now is just an opening gambit. Yeah. I'm using the term of a chess, but this is the Weichi game, Go game. उसमें आपने स्टार्ट किया है, अभी अपना प्यादा निकाल के रखा है कि ग्लोबल साउथ के साथ हो. अब क्या क्या बैकलैश आएगा, यू हैव टू बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट. एंड पेड मीडिया है वो भी करेगा.
Interesting comment, but I want to twist it to a question, sir. What is the Quad all about? Is it trying to get India to interface with the North?
Quad is a construct which the Americans have been pushing for. For them, always Indian Ocean has been a place for victuals. There is hardly any deployment except for that fleet, fifth fleet, which is based in Bahrain. वो वहां से निकल के नहीं आता है. आपके Arabian Sea में it has never come out to do much. It stays there deployed, threatening Iran. Okay. वो पर्शियन गल्फ में ही घूमता रहता है, वहीं रहता है. दूसरा फ्लीट्स तो बाहर है यार. इंडियन ओशन इज ओनली विक्चुअल्स यार. डिगो गार्शिया इज अ supply station here, victualling station. Now he has no boots here. He wants you in Quad so that your navy starts functioning with them, not just in the Indian Ocean, also in Western Pacific. हम कहते तुम तो इंडियन ओशन में आते नहीं हो, हम इंडियन ओशन देख लेंगे as part of Quad. You look after Western Pacific. Now if he has to look after Western Pacific and get after China there, he needs permanently at least 2 aircraft carriers, if not 3 carrier groups deployed there. 2 में डालने में ही उसको मुश्किल हो रहा है. 11 हैं उसके पास, बस 4 ही डिप्लॉयड है. 2 अटलांटिक में है, एक पर्शियन गल्फ में है,
और एक आ गया वहां पर बड़ा
और
वाला.
एक यहाँ पे है. बीच बीच में एक और भेजता है और वो चला जाता है वापस बात. So the Quad is this only. And his perception of the Indo-Pacific itself is wonky. His perception of the Indo-Pacific is like his Indo-PACOM command. उसके AOR तक ही है, which is the west coast of India. As if there is no Indian Ocean beyond here.
This also we've discussed.
Beyond on the other side, जो North Gujarat से कच्छ से लेके, if you draw a line across the Arabian Sea, that northern area is Central Command. Rest is Africa Com, जहाँ कुछ नहीं है, special forces है.
Yeah.
There is no navy there. So that is the problem with Quad. And let us be clear, Quad is no agreement or anything. It's a quadrilateral security dialogue. Dialogue. That is the key word, dialogue. तो अभी तक
Yeah.
बातचीत ही हो रही है और कुछ नहीं हो रहा.
The Chinese seem very, very nervous about it, sir.
If it becomes a proper grouping, then, and it should not be a, see, the quad should fall. You should have an Indo-Pacific Commission, period. All treaties, agreements, everything, put it under various verticals, or you can have verticals based on various regions, have all treaties out there, and let quad be a military vertical there. That's what it is today. When you talk of quad, you only talk of exercises, naval exercise, yahan kiya, military exercise we did there, air force exercise we did there. And then you
It's a
try
very
to say it's not a military combination, then what else here? I have not heard of anything else.
it's a very well masked thing, I must say, sir.
Yeah, not heard. So put it as a military vertical under the Indo-Pacific, whatever you call forum, foundation, council, commission, जो बोलना है बोल दो, सारे को लेके आ जाओ.
Um,
वो नहीं चाहते ना, because the whole economic pie of the world is only that much. Like what they say, GDP is 10 trillion. 39 तुम्हारे पास आगे हैं, 61 उसके पास है. तुम ग्रो करोगे तो तुम 50 हो जाओगे, वो 50 हो गया. दैट मीन्स फ्रॉम 69 इज कम डाउन टू 50. It affects him
big time, sir.
economically.
Big time.
It affects him economically.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir.
खेला
Sir,
इसी चीज के ऊपर.
let's run through the questions. There are loads of comments, so I just want to take more and more. So we'll figure this out. We still can't show teeth to the UK on BBC documentary. We're putting hold the trade deal for 2 to 3 years. If we don't respond to these attacks, they're going to keep coming and we are quiet every time.
गुड पॉइंट
Will
में, बट ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, एल्बर्ट जो कहता है करता नहीं है, जो करता है वो कहता नहीं है. ट्रेड डील हुआ है. इट वाज सपोज टू हैव बीन साइंड इन दिवाली. हुआ है? नहीं हुआ
now hoga.
और ना होगा. It will take its own, as they say normally in diplomatics, if we are studying it, it will take its own time. Where is the hurry?
And you banned the documentary already. That's a very
Yeah,
clear message.
Twitter, Facebook, all SM, they have been told to remove it, and quietly, and it has been done.
Yeah, it's banned. So, and that gives a very clear message. And secondly, I personally feel, sir, when these, what has happened is, sir, the media itself, and there is a reason all of you guys are sitting and watching shows like mine and so many others, is because the regular media itself is not having open-hearted conversations. These are these agenda-driven, monetary-driven, and this-driven and that-driven conversations where, I mean, we don't have any agenda. We have an agenda of analysis and discussion. So that's it's going to lose its game. See, the more you kind of wrap around this thing again and again, after some time people say, "Yaar, ye na, chhod do isko." And that's what is going to happen. Look at what's happening to our Indian media. A lot of people have just given up and said, "Yeah, I don't want to watch this anymore."
I hardly see the news. यार थोड़ा headlines कुछ देख लिया. I have my update which comes on the mobile. हाँ, breaking news ये आ गया. Then you have a look at it, and that's it.
Khatam. That's it. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than that, sir.
मैं तो न्यूज़पेपर खरीदना ही बंद कर दिया. I don't buy newspapers. 2-3 which I like, I have taken their this thing subscription. अपने मोबाइल या लैपटॉप या कंप्यूटर में देख लेता हूँ. पेपर ही नहीं खरीदता मैं. फायदा ही नहीं है यार.
Anikesh, let me know what subjects are you looking for. I'll be glad to try and cover it. Or if I've covered it, I'll be glad to kind of share you the links. So connect with me on email. Interesting point. Waiting for the Chinese in April, sir.
I am waiting for what happens in this New Year यार. उनका लूनर न्यू ईयर अभी अगले हफ्ते होने वाला है.
कोई नहीं travel कर रहा, sir. 70% drop in travels.
The biggest fear that Xi Jinping has, that people may come out on streets.
People are just
in
not traveling.
different places. Already, like I mentioned earlier before when we were discussing, that the labor has already started protesting in various factories in different cities. And the police has not been able to put it down because the police is also angry. You were mentioning something may have come up in the PLA. I don't know, this is not confirmed, but this has been
Yeah.
confirmed. This is that I'm talking of a news which has come out in South China Morning Post. Yeah, there have been strikes, and this has been building up, and in their social media it was coming up that uh, they are quite worried, and everybody is watching Xi Jinping. Normally, he comes out and then he reads his speech and other things in the central hall. They feel that he's going to do it virtually.
Virtually.
That is the langargup which is coming out. If he is doing it virtually, means the COVID situation there is much, much, much worse than what he is trying to tell. And that creates a problem if there is going to be unrest amongst the people, because chutti mein ja rahe hain sab. It's not that they are working, it's a holiday. Whether he goes home, doesn't travel, he stays there. What happens if they, like what the students did? They've realized that the power is that एक जगह मत करो, multiple जगह कर दो cities में. क्या करेगा? So I'm not waiting till April. I am waiting अभी ये lunar में क्या होगा उसके अंदर. Then
Yes.
yes, he will try if the PLA is with him. He will try to do something. Now just imagine the headlines of their Xinhua News and Global Times and South China Morning Post says Xi Jinping checks readiness of troops in the border. So that caught my attention. I read it. Sala,
And
virtually
ask,
you're going to check and
that's,
asking कि सब्जी मिल रहा है कि नहीं.
मतलब
And
तुम्हारा
as the
लॉजिस्टिक
chairman of the
इतना खराब.
CNP, you're saying patrolling कैसे कर रहे हो? And that is checking the readiness virtually.
मतलब इतना लॉजिस्टिक्स की हालत खराब है कि प्रेसिडेंट को पूछना पड़ता है भाई सब्जी मिल रही है कि नहीं.
Not only that, when
और
you check readiness, like all
जोक.
armies, we do checking of the readiness. You short mobilization is done and a tasking is given. Once they get deployed, have they come properly with everything that is checked? You're given X amount of time as per your op plans that you need to mobilize and be ready, everything in that amount of time. People are mobilized, they move, they do everything as if moving for battle. And then a small task is given. Can you execute that task or not? Which is part of your orders that you should be prepared for it. That is how you check the readiness here, not बातचीत करके checking readiness. I
सब्जी
was
मिल गई
having
ना.
a roaring laughter. So, but yes, you're right. We have to be careful. Somewhere or the other, कोई pinprick करने की कोशिश तो करेगा करेगा.
Absolutely, sir. There's just no question. And the problem is, I won't be
That
very
is the only
surprised.
way he thinks. No, he can't think any other way. The Communist
Yeah.
Party can't think any other way. It has to be that way.
Uh, the Sir, I have an interesting question by someone who, I mean, gentleman cannot. He says he can't put it on the YouTube because he doesn't know how to. But he says the culture in the culture in Latin America and most of other places is has to be understood. Politicians are under influence of Chinese money, but general public is not. Um the general public is more influenced by the USA and Europe because of Spanish ancestry or to say to stay under the Spanish rule for a long time. USA and Europe can easily sway them away from the global South. Now, this is something that you were alluding to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but one thing I'll tell you, the natives will not get swayed that much. Rural areas.
mm,
The Spanish ancestry, or in Brazil, the Portuguese ancestry, are in cities. Rural areas still is their original
I
people
didn't
who are
know that.
staying there. Very few have gone to the rural areas. So That is where the thing is. But yes, that is, it is not just Latin America. Your the pressures will come on these Oceania islands also. Pressures will come on Africans also. It's not so. It's not going to be simple. That's why I said it's a challenge. And I was alluding to it, of the geopolitical, geostrategic, and geoeconomic differences which are existing within the global south, and the clash of core interests of the global north in these areas. So it will happen. It's a question of how you balance it, how you're able to take forward. So let us say 120 पूरे नहीं आते. Let us hypothetically say कि भाई, about, I'm sure all from Asia also won't come. So let us say I get 25 from Asia and 25 from Africa, and out of the 13 islands, let's say half, but 7 of them come there with you. Caribbean से कुछ आ जाते हैं. Now, if you're able to start giving results in a
Hmm.
step by step manner, that's what I had mentioned. The outcomes, I had put S in the bracket. Once the outcomes start coming in, then you will gain more standing. Abhi, you have a standing of what happened earlier. Your standing is now what you
Do in
give
the
the
future.
outcomes to them. That is your standing. So your opening gambit वहां से था. अब आगे क्या, किस तरह से influence gain करोगे. So all these challenges in Latin America will be there. Africa में भी इतना पैसा गया हुआ है of the Chinese money. There's a lot of Chinese money which has gone there. There's a lot of Chinese money which has come into Asian countries also. So these are the challenges that you, how you're going to overcome these and yet be able to, that's the challenge.
Last couple of questions are: don't you think India and China together join hands with the others of global south, that would be a more stronger group, or just India leading the global south? Now, you know, Global Office 2.0, we've actually done a show on the strategic mistakes by China. You must watch that.
See, the
And
problem is you need two hands to clap. China's vision was laid out by Sun Yat-sen in 22, and the strategy was laid out by Tang Xiaoping in early 80s. That took them to some extent, but any strategy does not survive, because the geopolitical, geoeconomic, and geostrategic environment is fluid. If you are not able to modify your strategy to that and say that no, I will be the boss of Asia, then
that's the
it
problem.
becomes an issue. He is not looking at, his strategy does not look at uh, lifting up the other countries. The BRI is a classic example which tells you that that is not his strategy. After all, the BRI is enshrined in his constitution that it is meant for the economic growth of China, period.
China. Yes.
Period. So it is not for your economic growth. So that is the strategy for gaining influence, coercing influence, gaining influence. In that strategic mistakes, also I had mentioned about Michael Martin Jack's book,
I think
When
that.
China Rules the World, 2009. पढ़ो, उसमें he has given you the various circles and other things, how he wants he explains it very nicely of their concept of middle kingdom. तो उसमें he is not ready to partner with you, sorry,
I could show it to
you
you.
will be
It's
under
just
him.
I could show this book. It's just a little further away from my hands reach. So
It is everybody is under him, so that's not our vision.
yeah,
So I had shared a paper with Adi on what I had written about 3-4 years ago on Asian century.
Asian century.
Okay. If
That's something
China
that
doesn't come, If China, yes, if China comes with you, then global South becomes very strong. But China is not ready to come with you now. क्या बोलो?
That Asian century we will discuss, sir.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
something that we need to take up and we will talk about it. So
No,
there's a
now
lot of
that
questions.
was written about almost 4 years ago.
So we can
I no no. I will work on that and evolve it to the
Ji,
present day because the situations have changed. A lot of things have changed.
COVID and
Yeah,
Ukraine, sir, namely.
yeah, yeah. It
So a
has
lot of
changed the
people
whole dynamics. It has changed the whole COVID, Ukraine, and China's zero policy, zero COVID policy. It has changed everything. Yeah.
so there are a lot of questions about demography within India, the changes of demography and stuff like that. And you know what I'm hinting towards? It's of course, a challenge. Yes, the demographic change in terms of this thing, but does it really? I mean, it is a matter of concern. There's no question about it. But is it a matter of that larger concern? One, and second, a lot of people seem to think that it's not being addressed. Would you agree with that, sir?
It is being addressed. If you just look at, don't get carried away what gets published in the media. I would say it has its own agenda.
Spins. Mm.
You should read the official figures of what was there before and what is there now, and what is the percentage change that has taken place. It has stabilized already. If you know what I'm alluding to, it has stabilized, and that is where the push is for better education system, wherein these things run by the various minority institutions would also need to join up with your education, where only theological things won't be taught. It has to be, the theological things will be taught after the 12th,
Yeah, I agree.
not in the childhood. He will do his proper course of education, whether it's be the state board or the central board of education, till the 12th. After that, he can decide to become, go for the theological course. So these would, see, these things can't change just by enforcing it. It has to come through evolved education systems. Then the person views change. Empowerment of women is not just thought like that. Education of women changes a lot of things on ground. If the woman is educated, uh, if a child is being told something, the woman will correct it. That's not that way. Okay. The other aspect of demographic change, which is a bigger challenge to you, is you are now coming into a phase being the largest populated country with a very young profile. And that is where in that last where I said number two is suction, skill
Yes.
development of the population. So that is a demographic challenge that you have. If you do not do the skilling and provide them the wherewithal, that is samriddhi, that he has his job and he's able to do the job.
Mainstream.
Remember, an idle mind is a devil's workshop.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, sir.
So that is the main demographic challenge, is that, because then he doesn't have it, then he goes on to all these unwanted
Other
paths.
things. Prime example is JNK actually.
Yeah, the moment you give them everything, it happens.
Two compliments for you before I take the last question, sir. General message, which again you keep mentioning, so I'm gonna take this. Bide your time, hide your strength.
Yes,
And another one which talks about Major General knows about the dynamics of geopolitics and surprisingly the nuances of diplomacy as well. Hats off.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
And the last question, sir. Thank you so much, Naveen. Um General sir, off topic, can you do a basic session on the grand strategies of major powers US, China, India, EU, and Japan? US we've already done, Naveen, so you can kind of check that
China,
out.
we have done.
China, so we've
In
not done as a grand strategy of China, but we've covered this thing. US we've covered in great
US
detail.
we have done, China I'll do. India has, does India have a grand strategy? अभी vision बोला है, but I will try and evolve and tell you what our
So
strategy is evolving.
may I take a step forward?
Yeah,
Grand strategy. What should India's national security strategy be?
I'm working on that paper only.
So okay.
See, it's going to be a three-part paper. First is your what should be your national security strategy. And security strategy, people have to understand, is not just in uniform. There are multiple domains of security: your energy security, your food security, your data security, cyber security, information security, you have education security, all that, plus how you're going to have your internal security and your external security orchestrate. That leads you from here. The next, this is a capstone document that a country must have. The next document that comes, which flows from this, is your national defense strategy. How are you going to orchestrate your internal and external defense?
Hmm.
From there evolves your integrated military strategy. And your internal security forces have to create their integrated internal security strategy. वहां से निकलता है कि उस स्ट्रैटेजी को एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए व्हाट शुड बी दी capabilities, what from it flows for executing these capabilities properly, what should be the best structure where I can effectively utilize this capability to execute the strategy. That is how structure force restructuring is evolved. Not like this कि यार हमने इंटीग्रेट करना है. Yes, हमने इंटीग्रेट करना है. Without a strategy of how you're going to fight, you're integrating for what? So I had already written a paper 5 years ago on India's suggested integrated military strategy 2040, published in IDEA as a five-part volume. It's in five parts. July 14th to 18th, 2017. On the if you it's available freely on their website. You can download that. That is 2017. So now this which I am evolving is will come out maybe about 3 4 months down the line.
It's important, sir, and
Yeah, like see, in one of my talks also I had said energy security doesn't mean I go and buy that energy, buy that company. I can invest in that company. Like
invest.
something what you're doing for your energy security. You're getting it from Soviet Union, Russia. You're getting it from UAE. You're getting it from Saudi Arabia. You're getting crude refined here. You're using it for yourself. You're using it to keep your strategic reserve. Country's strategic reserve बता के रखते हैं 100 days, 90 days, 180 days क्या क्या रखना है वो रखोगे बाकी you're selling it in the market. So you have a certain degree of energy security available with you. Okay. फूड सिक्योरिटी आपको जैसे पाम ऑयल चाहिए मलेशिया से नहीं ले रहे थे अभी इफ यू वांट यू आर गोइंग टू इंडोनेशिया और एनी अदर कंट्री जहां पे बनता है इन्वेस्ट देयर या स्टार्ट स्लोली 25%
Yeah,
इन्वेस्ट the moment
absolutely.
you put 25% you can have a person on the board of directors.
Well, there's a loads of things: energy, water, food, and Anikesh has put out water security. As a matter of fact,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
there's loads
water
of such
water security is very important here. A
India's
lot of
next
people predict that the next war may be on water.
water.
So of course.
Absolutely, sir. There is the interesting part about what you're trying to say is that the world, and there's something I think you brought out very, very very, very nicely, sir, within this presentation, I must compliment you, is that the structure of the world in terms of how it has been set, there is a dynamic shift that is going to happen.
Yes.
Now it is India's opportunity or India's disaster, the way we look at our situation and the way we do our things. Point one. Second point is that with regards to how we position ourselves should not be over ambitious and overzealous in
Yes.
terms of putting yourself out there. Yes, having an ambition of becoming a strong third pole is great, but we need to work towards it to kind of uh, get to the point of strength and capability, as you said, Samriddhi and uh, Sang. I'm sorry, I forgot that one. Uh,
Sudrid, Saksham, Samridh, then you become Samrakshak.
ah, I missed
Samrakshak
that.
means you are the guard. In our terms, you are the net security provider. You have to be Sudrid, strong. That means you need to have a stability inside and outside, a stable platform. To be able to provide a stable platform. It's not that the platform will not get rocked, it will get rocked, but provide it. Suction, capability. Capability is not just in having your infrastructure. Capability, like I last mentioned, your own people have to be capable. You have to make sure that they are skilled properly to be able to do that. That will lead you to Samriddhi. And when you become Samriddhi, because the Samriddhi has to be a generally the differential between the rich and the poor should not be very large. Or I would rather say that the lower middle income and the rich, high income, that gap should not be very large. The very rich people you can't touch. वो जो billionaires हैं वो तो रहेंगे.
So,
So I'm not even counting them.
yeah,
I'm talking
yeah,
of higher income and the lower middle income. The gap should not be large. That is how you will get the samriddhi.
correct, 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 sir.
That is a good economy. Not
That's
that the rich become very rich and the poor stay poor. No. So the very poor, I'm not talking about the social security. तब तक universal basic income भी आ जाएगा, salary which you can give. The very rich, I'm not talking. Yeah, Adani, Vadani, I can't match that gap. Yeah, that's. I'm sorry, they will be there, but it is the ones in between. If you don't have a very large gap and basic, you're able to live, then you have a stable society. Then that is samriddhi. That is why China is not included in the global north. The high income and the low income, the gap is huge, and the urban and rural, the gap is massive. They don't own land, na? They get it on lease.
yeah.
They don't own house, it's on lease. So what happens when the lease finishes?
Sorry, but I, the way I used to react about Pakistan, today I react about China because you, yaar, ye kya kar rahe hain?
So it is only when you achieve all these that you can become a samrakshak. It is only when you achieve the first three that you will be able to provide more and more to the global south. And that becomes your heft. And that is why I had mentioned outcomes have to start coming. One by one, your outcome has to start. तो स्टेप
Hmm.
बाय स्टेप अप्रोच लेके चलो, सही चलोगे. अपने आप को फन्ने खा अभी मत समझो, अभी हम पहुंचे नहीं है यार. हैं अच्छे हैं, बट हम
Apart
मिडिल
from that,
इनकम हम
apart
मिडिल
from that,
इनकम
हाँ. Apart from that,
मिडिल
sir, there's another big thing that needs to be also understood that यार अपने पे थोड़ा सा
भरोसा रखो.
हाँ, we cut ourselves short, sir. ये तो I mean बहुत वो है.
वो इसलिए है कि our people in a hurry. As nations come, we were earlier, भारत का पुराना हिस्ट्री है. We lost that for almost 800 years. People from outside came and ruled you. You restarted in 47. You've just reached 75. If you read Paul Kennedy's book, The Rise and Fall of Nations, is 400 years.
Yeah.
अभी तो आप 75 साल के ही हुए हो यार, रास्ता
बहुत टाइम.
बहुत चल रहा है. 200 years is rise, then 100 years you stay there, and then 100 years you go down. तो ये अभी राइज करना है. That is why if you play your cards well, and if you're able to get the global south with you, this may be your Asian century or your centuries, India's centuries. At least 1 or 2 century तो आपको मिल जाएगा.
आराम से सर. Because the rest of them are hell bent on committing self suicide. So
Yeah, no, because of the you are trying to, like, having read our old this thing, uh, books on strategy and all that Chanakya ke the, and you're re going back to getting the concept of Chakravarti that we had in a new world, in the current scenario. Chakravarti earlier also had said was a person who dominated that area,
yeah,
yes, because he was powerful, but he did not sponge from those people. His vassal states also grew. They just gave him a yearly indemnity because he maintained a very strong army, and he would go to assist anyone if he was attacked from somebody else. And he was strong to ensure that there were no borders, there were frontiers, and frontiers shifted. Whoever was more strong took tax from that region, or the other chapter. So he was the one who used to sort out these problems between the various kingdoms and principalities under him. So now you are trying to get the global south with you to make sure that they also rise and they are also prosperous and they look upon you as your leader. So the current Chakravarti is concept is that you are the leader who looks after the interest of all these countries
without exploiting them.
without exploiting them, ensuring that they grow. That is what is Sagar, what uh, Prime Minister had mentioned 2018, I think it was in the Shangri-La dialogue. And that is what is this vision of Global South, where you find that bottom-up approach, tum bolo kya karna hai, hum karenge. We have this leadership of G20 and we'll see how to take it forward. That leadership is what was the ancient Chakravarti concept.
So this has been an eye opener. Actually, the response that I'm seeing with regards to the number of chats and the number of queries and questions and comments that are there in this, it's been an eye opener. Of course, a lot of people are saying that this is a discussion that needs to actually continue with regards to further these things. There are
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of
We
comments.
will work on strategies. चाइना का क्या है, इंडिया का क्या है, होना चाहिए, कैसे होना चाहिए. जापान का चलो it is evolving. Historically क्या किया था and then how they came about. We can touch on that. And what will he do, because it's still a self-defense force.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. No problem.
What's up? Thank
ईयू
you so much.
का ईयू का तो अभी कोई फायदा नहीं है. देखते हैं ईयू सरवाइव करता है कि नहीं.
बचेगा तो देखेंगे ना सर. I mean, with people like Ursula, who probably says Ukraine more than she says EU in a day,
Yeah.
one only knows what is going to happen there. Sir, thank you so much. This is always a learning
Pleasure.
experience. And trust me, the kind of comments that I'm sure you read, the comments that we get with regards to the in-depth level of the research that you do into these subjects is commendable, sir. I wish at some point of time in my life I have some close to knowledge the way you have. And thank you
No.
for teaching us this, because at the end of it, it's all a learning experience for us.
I'm sure by the time you reach my age, you will also have this kind of experience. Yeah.
Adi is not feeling sleepy at all, my friend. Adi is going to sit down and read some stuff that General Sir just sent, because एक बार वो कीड़ा चढ़ जाता है, you can't do anything. After that, you have to read it before you sleep.
Because
Otherwise,
I was surprised actually, UN site mein the first religion they showed was Hindu,
ma'am,
26%.
exactly what I want to get into. The research.
I was shocked, yeah. I was shocked.
That's the
Okay.
research I want to do right now. But sir,
Yeah.
thank you so much, and of course, it's lovely and great talking to you all the time. A lot of people are asking for that paper that you've written about, the rise of Asia. I'll,
You
with
know,
your, I'll share it to
it
them.
is available on the net also. Put my name and वो क्या evolving nations, क्या था वो पेपर का नाम?
1 second, I'll take it out, sir. ये रहा, sir.
Achieving the Asian Century.
Achieving the Asian centuries. Yeah.
It's a USI के journal में published है.
2018 published. Anybody wants to read it here? It's December 2018. It was published on USA.
अक्टूबर टू दिसंबर में पब्लिश हुआ था. इट इज दैट एवरी क्वार्टर इट इज पब्लिश द यूएसआई जर्नल. So October to this thing, my talk and everything on this had taken place previously, and so then they said you write a paper on this. So this is the paper which I gave.
Sir, thank you so much. Wonderful. And let's catch up for the next session. But, sir, I must say, the point that you brought about with regards to the capability development and this and that is something amazing. And the logic which with there is a thought process of being the voice of the global south has been, I think, an absolute brilliant masterstroke. And there is just no question
Yeah,
about it.
it's a master stroke. It's a master stroke. So opening gambit hai. Let's
Let's
take
wait
it
and see.
forward.
Absolutely. So, till next time.
Thanks, Adi, and
Jai Hind.
thanks to all the listeners who were there. You made my day. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Bye bye.